Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 10th episode of the Beyond the Assembly Line podcast. We finally made it. And yeah, today we're going to be tackling one of the biggest unknowns for new engineers. Um, my name is Harsh,
I'm Sommie.
and we brought back our professor from episode 6, Mark Calabrese, and we're going to be talking about negotiating your first salary. So let's just jump straight into it. The $1 million question: why is salary negotiation important for entry level engineers?
Well, first of all, let me commend both of you. Before we started, I said two of my favorite engineers, and I mean that sincerely. I look forward to great things from both of you. And if it's if it's similar to what I've done with other students, I'm sure we'll be talking about your first salaries, and negotiating the first salaries. But why is it important? It's important because we don't work for free. You have spent a lot of good time, a good portion of your entire life, getting a very valuable degree, something that you have passion about. And look, I have students that are music majors. They play the violin, any music instrument better than I could ever do. There isn't a great market. People are not willing to pay for that degree. They're willing to pay for our degree. And that's some of the reasons why we go into this business, right? I always ask students, why did you pick this? Why did you pick this major? I get answers from all over the board, including, like me, my father told me I was going to be an engineer, but there's no bad feeling about saying, hey, I want to earn a good living. I want the better things in life. So why is it important? It's important because it is the starting point of your career. If you start low, it's going to take that much longer for you to get to a point that you're satisfied with. I think students have a misconception for their first job that it's a dual misconception. One is that you can't negotiate, and that's wrong. And the other is, I'm so valuable to this company that I could dictate terms. And that's a fallacy as well. You are a small piece of a big company, even if it's a small company. So it's important that you don't shy away from it. It's important because it also starts building your confidence that, hey, I'm valuable and I'm worth something. So you sent me a whole bunch of questions, and I'll be glad to answer them in order.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to kind of tell a story if I can.
Sure. Absolutely.
Because I was young once too. In my first job, I was amazed. I won't even tell you what the salary was in 1978. You can't even buy a loaf of bread for that today. But anyway, the salary wasn't as important. What was important was how they treated me. They flew me back and forth to New Jersey. There was house hunting trips. They took me out to dinner. I felt valuable. Don't fall into that poor attitude where, somebody's nice to me and I'm going to go work for them. They have to be nice to you if they want you, and then they have to pay you. So students come to me all the time, or used to come to me all the time, with a variety of offers. And the first thing they look at is salary. I was young once too. That was important to me. You've been in my cost engineering class, and I say, look, the first dumb thing you're going to do when you get your first check is, I'm going to buy a new car. Dumb, but we all do it. Okay, you deserve it. Salary is not what you need to look at. We all look at the short term. We all look at put blinders on. Salary is important, but if you're valuable to a company, I guarantee whatever your salary is, they're going to knock it out of the park for you. I always had good salaries, but I'll never forget at one point in my life, I was making $91,000 a year, and I got a $95,000 bonus that year.
Whoa.
Um,
Whoa.
so yeah, so that's when a company tells you, we like you, we appreciate you. So don't worry about the salary. And when you negotiate your first salary, don't let the word salary, be the key point, because there's more to it than just salary. There are bonuses, signing bonuses. There is matching 401k contributions. There's health plans. There's all kinds of stuff that is far more valuable to you as you mature and grow older than a salary. Whatever your salary was, let's say you negotiated a salary of $70,000 a year. 3 years in, if they love you, you're not going to be making $70,000. You're not going to be making 3% growth per year. They will start doing what they used to do for me. Midterms, they call them midterm. Companies will reward you at the end of each year with a salary bump. But if they really like you, they have midterm corrections. And if everybody's getting 3% and you're getting 5% and you're a super achiever, that's a slap in the face. Don't diminish your capabilities. Don't feel bad about yourself if you feel like you deserve 10 or 20%. How do you get 10 or 20%? Unfortunately, companies are dumb. They love you. They want to keep you. They've trained you. And you threaten to leave. And they say, okay, instead of 3%, I'll give you 5%. And you leave anyway. And you go get 20%. And they say, okay, don't leave. We'll give you 7%. What part that you don't understand? Somebody else values me at 20% higher. So the starting point should not be the end all. It should not be the thing that you worry about the most. That said, don't leave money on the table. So stop me at any time. If I'm not going down the path you want me to go down.
Oh, this is great.
But the additives to salary are much more important to you, and they grow as we talked about in cost engineering. You maximize your 401k with a company, especially if they have a matching fund. And no matter what your salary is, 10 years in, you have $250,000 in the bank, and you say, wow, that's something. And that gives you power and control. So when you get your first offer, you have to remember who your audience is. This is the key for employees or students to recognize. Let me open the curtain, the Wizard of Oz, and tell you the back of the store activities. The person you're dealing with is not the person you're going to work for. You're dealing with human resources. Human resources' job is to control costs. They are going to get you to the midpoint of a range. So you're a junior engineer in their company, whatever they call it, engineer one, junior engineer, whatever they decide to call it. It's the entry level position. You're dealing, and you've interviewed with your hiring manager and a bunch of other people. They love you. They want you to work for the company. Now you can't talk to them anymore. The company will prevent you from talking to them. You have to talk to human resources, and human resources is going to get you to the midpoint of the range. I used to hate it, but it's for a good reason. Mm-hmm. So if the range is $50,000 to $100,000 for a junior engineer, they're going to get you to the midpoint of that range, which is $75,000. That's what they're going to offer you. Does it mean there's no wiggle room? No. And why do they get you to the midpoint of the range? I think we talked about it in the other podcast. It's for a good reason. If they get you to the far end of the range and you're a super achiever, they either have to promote you to get you more money or not give you any more money. Those are not good conditions for a company that loves you. So they want to get you to the midpoint of the range, and the ranges are pretty broad. There's $25,000 from $75,000 to $100,000, and they can give you pretty substantial raises while you're getting experience and while you're getting to know them and they get to know you. So you're dealing with human resources, and you say, well, I've seen students do both. I don't recommend this first approach. No, I'm worth more than $75,000. I want $85,000. And you'll find out very quickly that you are a small part of this company, and they may ghost you. I've seen that more and more. It offends me, but companies ghost you. Or they say thank you for your time, and they send you on your way, and they go to the next candidate. There's a way of asking. My whole career, I have been criticized for not what I say, but how I say it. And I've said it before. I could say good morning to somebody and they cry. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So you're talking to human resources. You're talking to a bureaucrat. They don't know what you do. They don't know the value of you. They are working to a midpoint of a range. So what you need to do is try to unlock the path to the hiring manager. And human resources has to talk to the hiring manager. So whatever you say to them, to the human resource person, will get back to the hiring manager. You just can't go directly. So my opinion is always take the high road. You talk to the human resources person, and always, even if this isn't true, always say, this is my dream job. This is exactly what I've always wanted to do. Stroke, stroke, stroke. I love this company from the day I was born. Now you level the playing field a little bit, and you say, even if it's not true, I'm not telling anybody to lie, but I'm telling people to lie. You tell them your offer of $75,000 is appreciated. I really want to work for this company. As I've said, it's my dream job. My fellow graduates in the same local area are getting $82,500 a year. Is there anything we can do to bump up that salary?
Okay.
That's the way to handle it. Now, the person, they won't immediately say no, even if in their mind the answer is no. They have to go back to the hiring manager. And if the hiring manager says, look, I know this person is young, but they really hit it out of the park when we interviewed them, and it is a skill that we really need. I really want us to do better than 75. They may come back at 77.5, instead of the 82.5 that you threw out there. There's no more negotiation after that. If they come back with a counteroffer, that's it.
Okay.
But you can say, sometimes they'll do that. Increasing your salary is very difficult for them. What they may say is, let's see, the difference between 75 and 82, that's $7,500. We'll give you a signing bonus for $7,500. That's throwaway money to them. It's a one-time to keep you happy, and it doesn't increase your salary. It doesn't increase the base that they have to increase, with your merit increases each year. $7,500 is not an outrageous signing bonus for a young person. I've gotten signing bonuses of $50,000, but when I was young, I actually got a $7,500 signing bonus. I bought a Breitling watch with it. Today it's worth $25,000. Don't buy a car. But anyway, you're talking to the human resource person. You're being very courteous. You're giving them data, and companies love having data, even if it's not true. Oh, we're going to write that down in our book that the local market is paying 82.5. It may be fiction, but they're getting something out of it, and they're going back to the hiring manager. So if you're going to negotiate, that's how you start. Now, if they come back immediately and say, no, there's nothing we can do above 75, then you have a decision to make. The level of love that they have for you, and it's a starting position level of love. You can, if you have no other alternatives, you take it. If you have other alternatives, you parlay that. You use that to your benefit. You immediately call back the other people that are making offers to you and say, this company just offered me 82.5. Even if they said no, it's just going to be 75. And if they say, well, we can't match that, okay, but it's a negotiation. A lot of words to say, look, don't just roll over and die,
Yep.
Be courteous, be professional, twist the truth a little bit. And why do I say twist the truth? I'm really not encouraging anybody to lie, but because if you get caught, it's a bad day. But this is one area that you can't get caught because companies are not allowed to share that kind of information. Even if you were working for a company and you were making 75 and you said, I'm making $90,000 a year, and they go to your company and say, can you tell us how much this person is making? No, the only thing they can say is that person was employed here or is employed here. That's all they can do.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So would you say there's any like long-term consequence to negotiating your first offer? So like, let's say the HR came to my first offer was 75K as a starting engineer or an L1, and I didn't negotiate. I straight up took that offer, and I was gonna climb the corporate ladder, hoping for an L2, and that's probably how I would get my raise. Would you say that there is a long-term consequence of not negotiating?
No, the answer is no. So don't stress over it. You go to work for a company, you think, I love this company. I'm going to work for this company for the rest of my life. No, you're not. Yeah. And I'll slap you silly if you stay with that company the rest of your life, because companies are dumb. They give you the 3%, the 4%, maybe the 6% raises, but you can go to work for the company across the street for 20%, jump ship early in your career. My opinion. Don't do it every year, but every couple of years, go test the market and jump ship. And if you leave on good terms, you can always go back to that company. And ironically, you left the company at $75,000 because another company was offering you $90,000. You spent a couple of years there. You're now up to $105,000, and you go back to your original company, and they're very willing to pay you $110,000, but they weren't 2 years ago. I have a friend, a former student of mine, Laura, and she played this perfectly. She was with Lockheed Martin without a degree for 13 years. She got her degree. She wanted a certain salary. They almost met it. But I mean, it was a few $100s off of what she asked for. A few $100s on $100,000, that's a slap in the face that they didn't do it. So she left. And that was 5 years ago. She's probably $250,000 a year person now. They didn't see the value in her. Others did. So no, there's no downside to rolling over other than, maybe humiliation. I don't recommend anybody just rolling over. You take a shot, and see what happens. But you're not going to be with that company forever. And in today's economy, the raises are 3 or 4% maximum. That's nothing. That's not keeping up with inflation. So you stay there. I was trying to calculate this the other day. I mean, you have to stay with these companies for like 20 years to double your salary at that rate, and if you do that, you're dumb. You're devaluing yourself. So take the job if you love it, do the best work you can, but always be looking for that next opportunity. And sometimes the opportunities come and find you. And that's the better of the two. If you find a job that you like, that's great. If somebody reaches out to you as a recruiter and says, hey, we've heard great things about you, we want to talk to you. Okay. They have shown already how interested they are in you. You have a better negotiation position.
For sure.
For the hiring managers and for the HR teams at these companies, are they expecting us as entry levels to negotiate?
That's a great question, Sommie. It depends. Depends on big corporations versus small corporations. I have seen small companies, the human resource person, that is a multi-purpose person. They do human resources. They do advertising. They do a whole bunch of different jobs. And it's like, who are you to ask us for more money? It's an insult. Big corporations understand that. And they know it's coming. So they've probably pre-discussed with the hiring manager, how much do you want this person? And so it's been pre-lubricated. They know that if you ask the question, there's some wiggle room there. But if you don't ask the question, good. They got you at a good price.
I know you kind of touched on it when you first started, but I think one big fear a lot of us have is, I'm 22. Like, yeah, I've worked internships and stuff, but I feel like asking someone to pay me more money, it just kind of feels weird for us.
I
It's
know.
just like a weird feeling we get. Are there any other common like fears or myths that students have when it comes to negotiating that you have a solution for or you could debunk?
Depends on whether you have other opportunities. Used to be our students were getting 5 or 6 different job offers at the same time. The economy has gone crazy, and it's not that way anymore. So if it's your only offer, yeah, the big fear is if I open my mouth, they're not going to offer this to me, and I really want and need this job. And that's a real fear. I've never been in that position. The economy has always been very good through my career. So I could afford to be a little bold and say, no, I'll roll the dice and I'll go with somebody else. But in today's world, it's a real fear. So being professional and making that one-time offer, hey, is there anything we can do to get this salary higher, is not a bad thing. Beyond that, don't push it too much because you may be out of opportunities.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. And now I guess we want to kind of pivot to actually understanding the offer once it's kind of out there from that company. So, Hirsch, I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. And you already did touch up on it. So besides the base salary, what's like, in your opinion, the best thing to look for? Would it be bonuses, a stock, PTO, location, or even cost of living? Maybe even relocation, as well.
Yeah, great questions. So if you're not getting a job in the location that you're currently at, relocation is important.
Okay.
And again, for a company, it's typically throwaway money. So you should expect that. If you're living in Orlando and they're hiring you in San Francisco, no matter what the salary is, I mean, that's going to be an outrageous difference in cost of living. But getting there, they should have some kind of relocation package. If not, I wouldn't move myself on my own nickel cross country for my first job.
Absolutely.
So that would be important. Companies used to, when I was young, it was amazing. They put you up at a hotel that you get to pick for up to a month. They pay your closing costs on a house if you decide to buy a house. You got a per diem every day for a month. Me and my wife at the time, when we moved from Colorado back to Florida, we took advantage of that full month of hotel living, even though we found an apartment earlier. They're paying us per diem. We were living great. That's not the way it is anymore. Usually it's a flat rate. We'll give you $5,000 relocation cost. In some cases, it's truly $5,000. In other cases, it's show us the receipts up to $5,000. And that if it's $5,000 for relocation, that's a good thing because then you'll minimize your cost. You'll get your buddies to help load a U-Haul and you'll move cross country and you'll pocket the difference. But if you have to show receipts, then they're only going to pay for out-of-pocket expenses.
Yeah.
But relocation is an important one. A signing bonus of some sort is not outrageous for a young person. So that would be important. At your young age, you don't care about healthcare. You don't care about retirement. You're so far away from it. But 10 years from now, you would have loved to go back in time and gotten a better deal. So look at their matching 401k. All companies have a 401k. It's a requirement by law. It's a portable pension plan, essentially, that you get to take with you when you leave the company. But for every dollar you put in, they have matching funds. The better the matching funds. When I went to my first job with Rockwell International, God knows what the year was. For every dollar I put in, they put in $2. That's free money. Maximize the hell out of that. Today, it's not that way. It's we'll match
6%.
25 cents on the dollar up to
Yeah.
8% or whatever it is. It's still free money. So maximize that. So yeah, there's a bunch of different things to look at, including the location you're going to, the geographic location, and look at the company as well and find out where other locations are. Because if you do wind up liking the company and you don't like the location you're currently at, you know, it's possible for you to stay within the company, keep all of your benefits, and go to a different location. So those are the types of things you want to look at. But salary is just a small part of it. Unfortunately, as young people or as human beings, it's the first thing we look at. It's the biggest thing we look at, and it's not. You're not going to stay with that company forever.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably a little different back then than it is now. But how should students like do market research, or like is there any specific tools or websites that you would recommend for students to use when looking for certain roles?
So are we talking about again salary and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's many websites. I don't remember the names of it. You could put it in a search engine,
Sure.
but it'll allow you to find out, hey, I got an offer of $75,000 here in Orlando, and they're asking me to go to Mississippi. What is $75,000 worth there? And you find out, oh, $75,000 offer in Mississippi is really like $82,000, but it's really like $50,000 in San Francisco, you know, so cost of living factors into that in a big way. By the way, let me back up for a second. I had one of my students, Madison was her name, and her title was very important to her. And at first I didn't understand it. You know, what they were offering her was a good package, but she didn't like the salary, didn't like the title. But she convinced me that that's an important thing, because not all companies understand that. And when you do leave that company and go to another company, the other company might not understand what your title was. My first job with Rockwell, I was member of technical staff 1. What the hell is that? You know, different companies will allow you to be called an engineer if you're not an engineer. Well, no, you worked damn hard to get an engineering degree. So somebody that got a 2-year degree that worked 20 years and became an engineer, that doesn't sit well with us, you know? So back to your previous question, what other things should you be looking for? Look at the title. It should have engineer somewhere in it, if possible. So that it doesn't mean anything within the company, but it does mean something when you leave the company. So I'm sorry to back up on that.
No, that is so true. I always think about the title all the time. I remember initially I didn't like the idea of being a manufacturing engineer. I feel like sometimes manufacturing engineers get like looked down upon.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case. It still is a good title, but other companies might not see the value of a manufacturing engineer versus the company that you're at. So I 100% agree with like looking at a title is definitely
something as simple as that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, downstream it means something, and that's kind of my point. Don't look at the here and now. Look at the future. The future, 5 years downstream, 10 years downstream. The 5 years downstream, title might be important. The 10 years downstream, how much contribution they made to your 401k is important. So those things are equally as important as the starting salary, because the starting salary doesn't matter. You asked a question about stock options. Typically, at a starting level, you don't get stock options unless you go to work for Publix, which is called an ESOP, employee stock ownership plan. They're owned by the employees. You go to work for a big corporation, you have to wait until you get to the stratosphere before they'll start offering you stock options. But that's a biggie. You know, stock options can make you very wealthy very quick. But it's typically not offered at this low level. There's salary. There's maybe a signing bonus if you ask for it.
Okay.
If they give it to you without asking for it, that's good. That's an indication that this company is very interested in you. How much vacation, or, not only vacation, companies are screwing people left and right these days. I used to get, you go to work for a company as a young engineer, you get 2 weeks vacation. And then you get sick leave, bereavement, you get 13 holidays. Forget that anymore. Companies say, we're only going to give you 5 holidays, and that's because the government is forcing us into giving you 5 holidays. And we're merging your vacation and your sick time together. So if you get very sick, don't worry, you're going to get paid, but you have no vacation left. It's one or the other. If you find a company that has both, that's invaluable, And how quickly do you get to earn the 3rd week of vacation? Some companies say, well, you got to be with us for, 7 to 10 years. Well, damn, I'm not going to be here that long, and other companies say, well, you accrue another day of vacation after every 12 weeks or whatever it is. You say, okay, those are important factors to you, because you're not going to work full time. In fact, if you go to work for the company and you're really not happy there, every day is going to be like a prison sentence, so you're going to want to use your vacation time.
Absolutely. And I guess we can jump straight into the next segue, the right way to negotiate. Sommie, you want to go for it?
All right. I feel like you answered the majority of the questions we were going to ask about this. The last one I just want to ask is kind of personal to me, because this happened to me when I was, looking for my job. So when I asked for, to negotiate, they said this is non-negotiable. So after that, I kind of just left it. But do you agree that you just leave it at that and you move on? Or do you think there's any other way to maybe see, or you just don't push it and you leave it?
That's a great question. And you may not like my answer. We all have pride, right? And if a company shuts you down like that and says, this is non-negotiable, they're telling you what they think about you, they're telling you, we're doing you a favor hiring you. A company, even if it's true that they're doing you a favor hiring you, should value you enough, should value your the feelings that you have about yourself, to at least put on a little bit of an act and say, let me see what I can do, and then come back and say, I'm sorry, I'm telling you to lie, let them lie in reverse. The economy's really in bad shape. The company's strong, but we have to, position ourselves to the next 5 years. We have strong competition. There's nothing we could do at this point. To say, hey, this is non-negotiable, that's just a slap in the face. So look at that and say, okay, if they treated me this way on day one, it's a red flag. Do I think they're going to embrace me, warmly better after that? Probably not. So if you have better options, take them. If you don't have better options, just tuck that away in the back of your mind that day one of that job, you should be looking for your next job. One of the questions I think you asked, and if you don't mind, I'm going to jump to it because it's so important.
Of course.
What happens when you accept the job? Let's say in this case where they say it's non-negotiable and you accept the job because it's the only offer you had. And your start time is a month from now. And 2 weeks later, another company comes and says, hey, we want to interview you. You interview with them. They offer you the same or better. And you say, oh, my God, I accept it with that other company. There's professionalism, but there's also self-preservation. I actually did this in 1979, I think. I accepted a job. I was well sought after, and I accepted a job with a company called Allied Chemical in New Jersey. They spent a lot of money on me, wined and dined me, flew me back and forth, house hunting trip, I found an apartment, came back, and for a very stupid reason, don't do this. My girlfriend at the time said, I'm not moving to New Jersey.
No.
And I thought, oh my God. Well, so I searched and I found a consulting company here in Orlando at a lower salary. And I took that position, and I called Allied Chemical and I said, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not coming. They were pissed. And they actually contacted the university because back then it was through, they had these job fairs and everything. It can't believe this guy did this to us, blah, blah, blah. I felt bad, but it didn't hurt my career. But it did. Had I gone to this company, I probably would have not lasted a year because, my girlfriend was more important to me than my career at that point. That never worked out, by the way. So don't make that same mistake. But my point is, do what's best for you. You are the CEO of your life. Do it professionally, and you can explain to somebody, I am really sorry. I did not take advantage of you. I know this looks bad, but for mental health reasons, I couldn't take this position. And make the offer of being sincere. And if it's a good person on the other end, they recognize that and they say, okay, well, yeah, you put me in a bad position, but I understand. Best of luck to you. So don't hesitate to do what's right for you. In my case, it was for a stupid reason. But if you get a better job offer within, the period of time before you're going to work for a company, contact that company and say, look, I just want to be upfront with you. I accepted your offer, but I got a much better offer 2 weeks later. I'm not playing you against another company. I just wanted to be sincere with you. Is there anything you can do to match this offer? And if they say no, then you do what's best for you. You go to work for this other company that had a better offer, but at least offer them the opportunity to counter.
I have one more special scenario, I guess. So
Okay.
this question is how to approach internal raises or promotions after 1 to 2 years in a role. Do you think that how would one go about that? Or like you said, should you be looking to pivot and go somewhere else?
Yeah, another great question. When I was an executive with companies, I had 2,500 people working for me. I didn't know most of their names. I face recognition, but most of their name. And we had this office building. And at the end of the day, I'd be waiting at the elevator with other people. And a couple of them that I didn't even know were my employees would say, hey, Mark, I really want to make more money here in this company, and I only got a 3% raise, and I really want more money. And this person is 5 levels below me. They should never do that. There is a chain of command. But I would check into it and find out this is a good solid performer, but nothing special. So that person got an average raise, and that would be the end of it. And it really puts me in a bad position. I can't go back to that employee and negotiate salary. That I'm 5 levels above you. There's a chain of command. When you're with a company, there's an unwritten law. You don't share your salary with others. Every company will try to hold you to that, and it's for a reason. Harsh got hired for a position last year for $60,000, and Sommie got hired this year, same position for $75,000. And if you share that, Harsh is pissed, So he's been there a year and he got a 3% raise. So, he's making 61.8, and you came in fresh off the street and you're making 75. What the hell? Well, there's a lot of conditions that happen that cause that to happen. And if you share it, you start getting really disgruntled employees. But the reality is everybody knows everything. The company will say, hey, they sit you down. You say, you did a great job. the average merit pool of the company is 3%. We thought you did a great job. We're giving you 4%. That means 1% is coming from off of somebody else's. Somebody else is getting 2%. It's an average. So, but we think highly of you. You're making 4%. And you sit there and you say, really? I mean, cost of living, you say it to yourself. You don't say it to them. You might say, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Cost of living has been 6%. So 4%, I'm actually running backwards. Is there anything we can do? And your hiring manager is going to say no. There's nothing they can do. Once you're in the company, there's no negotiations anymore. It's prove to me you're worth a 10% raise. And there's very little you can do actually to prove you're worth a 10% raise. Again, looking back on my career, I was fortunate to focus on getting the job done. There were many times I would stay at the office 24 hours to get something done. My customer, it was NASA, thought very, very highly of me. If there's any negotiation happening, it's not you to your company, it's your customer to the company. And the customer is saying great things about you. Don't lose this guy. This guy is, really doing a great job. Boom. That's the best of all worlds. But you negotiating on your own, zero once you're with a company. To that point, if you do have a customer interface, use that to your advantage. Really please your customer. Customer satisfaction is important. And make sure that your boss knows that the customer loves you. And the higher up your customer is, the more important your customer is, the more you don't even have to open your mouth. They're going to try to keep you happy because they want to keep that customer happy. But the short answer to your question, Sommie, is no. Once you're in a company, there's very little negotiation that can occur. Even the guy that came to me at the Curtis was his name, came to the elevator. There was nothing I could do. I mean, I look, at the end of the day, if this guy was a super achiever and he got a 3% raise and he felt insulted by that, and I checked with his direct supervisor, and the direct supervisor said, yeah, I really want to keep this guy, but what can I do? I have this pool of money that I have to distribute. I'd say, let me go talk to human resources. And we can make a promise to the guy, look, midpoint of the year, we will get you another 3%. So now you're not getting a 3% raise, you're getting a 6% raise, that goes a long way. But there's an old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. There's some truth to that, but it also works in reverse sometimes. Sometimes the squeaky wheel is somebody that thinks more highly of themselves than the company does, and they're just giving you a reason to say, let's get rid of this person. So we think highly of ourselves, and we should, but look at it from the aperture of the company. Yeah, you may be a great engineer, but what value are you bringing to the company at this point in your career? And it's relatively little. 10 years in, you have more negotiating power than you do now. It's easier. Again, you won't like the answer, but it's easier to find a job with a different company that's going to take a risk with you at a 10 or 15% raise. By the way, they don't know that they're giving you a 10 or 15% raise because they don't know what your salary is, and you're not going to tell them what your true salary is. But their salary ranges are better than the current salary range in your company. They're willing to pay for you. Then you go with them. Eventually, you're going to find, I think I told the story in the other podcast. My first 5 years out of school, I was starting to get worried that I'm going to run out of companies to work for, because every year I was unhappy with that company. They didn't treat me well, and I was going to find another company. And I did. And I was getting more money every time I jumped, but I'm thinking, I got to look in the mirror. Maybe it's me, and it was. I'm young man's disease. We think we're better than we are. But eventually you're going to go work for a company and you're going to recognize that they like you and you like them. And you're going to get 7 and 8% raises when the merit pool is 3%. That's an indication. And they're going to give you midpoint corrections. And they're going to rate you as outstanding on all your performance appraisals. And they're going to make sure that if you wanted to go to a training seminar in the Bahamas, that they send you. You know, there's always something that a company can offer. It's not salary, but hey, I wanted to go to this conference, and this conference is in France. And they say, okay, we'll send you to that conference. Damn, that's an indication they really like you, you know? So you look for those messages along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. That is really, really cool. And I guess we can go into the last segment. So some advice for first-time negotiators. How would a student mentally prepare for negotiation? I know it's still very touchy. Like there is some sort of like fear, like we said earlier. Sure. But how should students really prepare for
that? Yeah, students. When you're young, you think that you have no power and no strength. The engineering degree gives you a level of power that you don't recognize you have. So handle yourself professionally. You should never go into anything in life afraid or show fear. That's not to show arrogance, but just don't show fear. You're a professional. You worked hard. You've earned a level of trust. So recognize that. The fact that you got through an engineering degree at the largest university in the United States should say that you're not meek. You know, you've handled tough stuff before. So don't go in there with a chip on your shoulder and say, don't you know who I am? I'm Mark Calabrese. You go in there and you say, hi, hey, this sounds like a great opportunity. I'm really looking forward to putting into play all that I've learned. I understand that that's textbook knowledge, and I'm looking forward to learning the next level stuff from you, from this company. This company has a storied career, a storied background, reputation. I'm going to be proud to work here, you know, and a lot of that is sincerity, you know, but don't go in there. Oh, you know, what are you going to offer me? Okay, yeah, I'll take that. What are your biggest accomplishments in life? Well, you know, I really haven't accomplished very much. I'm young. Come on, we've accomplished stuff. I don't hire people because they have fresh out of school people because they have experience. Let's face facts. You know, you're young. No, you haven't had experience yet, but you volunteered at a hospital. Damn, that's very interesting. Tell me about that. Oh, you played intramural soccer or collegiate level basketball. Tell me about that. That's pretty fascinating. That shows levels of leadership that you don't even think you have. Well, I don't. I've heard this from students all the time. I don't have any internships. I don't care. An internship is, 3 months, 6 months. You're going to learn something from that company that might not translate to the company that you're interviewing for. But what kind of person are you? I'm hiring a good person as a young person. I'm not hiring somebody with 50 years experience. So recognize that you have value. How did you make money to go to school? I mowed lawns. There's nothing insignificant about that. Man, I'll hire you in a heartbeat if you have no engineering experience, but you put yourself through school and you worked at 7-Eleven or you mowed lawns. Man, that shows me what you are as a person. Remember, you're fresh out of school. This company's going to mold you into what they need. But they want to be able to mold a good person, not an arrogant person that thinks they're more experienced than they are. You know, I always tell students at this level, a 1-page resume. Come on, you haven't done anything in your life to warrant a 2-page resume at this point. Well, but I mowed lawn, and there's a paragraph on how you mowed the lawn. Nobody cares. You just mowed the friggin' lawn, but it shows your work ethic. So don't think more highly of yourself than you are, but also don't go in there thinking that you're worthless. You're not. They're talking to somebody that went through hell to get a degree that is not music theory. So, go in there with your head held high.
Yeah. I always tell people, guys, if you don't have engineering experience, like it's good to put that you're a server at a restaurant. It shows that you're a personal, like you can talk, you can communicate. That is a very good skill to have.
It is.
It's it's something that a lot of people don't like seeing on their resume, and it's like, guys, come on, like it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Just one liner, it doesn't have to be a chapter and verse of how you delivered food to a table, but
Right?
the fact that you were a server or a busser or whatever shows, look, I'm not expecting anything to be handed to me. I work hard for what I've earned, and boy, I'll hire you in a heartbeat.
That is amazing. And well, I am all out of questions. Somi, anything else?
Honestly, yeah, I'm all good. I feel like you answered all the questions and more, gave a lot of good advice that things that I recently went through that, it's definitely nice to hear things I did well and things I could have done better, but it's nice to hear though.
Let me tell you, I've hired a lot of people in my day, young people all the way up to experienced people. The interview starts before you cross the threshold of the door. How you walk into a room says a lot about you as well. So make sure that if you're watching this podcast, that you understand walking into the room with confidence, not arrogance, confidence, having good social skills, greeting someone with a good handshake, greeting someone, knowing their name and getting the name right. I don't know if you've ever heard the story about Steph Curry, why he didn't go with Nike, because they couldn't pronounce his first name correctly. Get the person's name right. So, and if you don't know what it is, do a little research on that. Do a little research on the company as well. Know something about the company. Don't go in there blind and say, no, I don't know anything about this company. That gives me a great indication that you're not serious about this. So even Hirsch, I used to pronounce your name Harsh, and it's pronounced Hirsch. Something simple like that, it is not simple. It's a level of honor, and you may not have to know chapter and verse about a company, what their revenues were, what their problem areas were, but know something about the product set and how, because a question might come up. Well, look, how do you think an industrial engineer is going to benefit us in the company? And well, you can give well, we're very diverse. We can do anything. But if you can tie it back to, well, I one of your product lines, for instance, is this. And, I did a senior design project on something similar to this. And we did spaghetti diagrams, and we were able to maximize their efficiency. And you tied it back to something that the company does. Oh, my God, you've done your homework. You're going to get that job. So when you cross the threshold, how you portray yourself is important. Slump shoulders, my father was a big stickler on eye contact, make eye contact, not in a threatening way, but, don't answer every question like this. That gives an indication. Companies understand your degree doesn't make you an expert. They're going to mold you into something, but can you work with other people, and can you help us make money? Those are the only two things they're looking for in a young person. Hey, I worked as a busser at Red Lobster. I love the profession of engineering, and I've loved this company from the day I first heard about it. I'm a big fan. Boy, you're way ahead of everybody else. So I don't know if that helps or not.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, genuinely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Professor. It's been a pleasure again. Super, super glad to have you, and all your advice and opinions have been very valuable.
Well, guys, I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate both of you. as you know, anything I can ever do to help you or others, I'm available to do that. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Awesome.